I'm pretty old too. So I've sort of been round the block, and in 21 years of doing what I do, I know what is going to motivate a woman to move, and I know what isn't. And I think possibly, you know, having been around the block a little bit, although I am an Insta live with a partner virgin today with you.
Right,
I
lovely.
am, yes, you
I'm,
popped my cherry.
I was just saying, I'm absolutely honoured.
I've done loads of Facebook lives, but for some reason I seem to be a bit more scared of Insta. But no, seriously, I do think that we all need a little bit of motivation, but it's the way that we motivate women, particularly once you get to around 40. What worked before doesn't work now to motivate people. I think it's really important. My son, for Mother's Day a couple of years ago, he was living in London doing that, you know, posh Sloaney thing. And he said, Mummy, I'm going to take you to that place called Cycle. Okay. So it's one of those spinning places.
Right.
So this was my Mother's Day trip. So in I went to this place that was a bit like Abercrombie and Fitch with bikes.
Okay. Oh,
okay.
gosh.
I got on a bike and everybody's got these lovely little ponytails and little pointy nipples, and off they go for an hour. I could have been dead at the back, Nigel. Nobody would have known. Nobody would have known.
They would have thought you were the cleaner pet, weren't they?
I was at the back. There was all this music and everybody was going like this. And I was thinking, you know, this is great if you're 25, you're 30. But I'm a 54-year-old woman, or I was then. And actually, in my own world, I'm quite strong. But put me in a situation where I'm with the 35-year-old male, and that's not right for me, and it's not right for other women either. So it's about finding the right kind of motivation.
Totally. Couldn't agree more. And again, it was interesting. I was doing a session, a group session on Zoom last night with a lot of women around weight management, and we were talking about, you know my mantra, the 10,000 steps, the small amounts of weight resistance exercise to deal with this horrible effect of estrogen deficiency and the slowing of the metabolic rate. That, you know, when you think, my goodness, between us, what a powerhouse that we can do to turn back time.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I was saying to the girls, you know, look, to begin with, you know, really just find where your baseline is now. What we need to see next then is an increase, and a sustainable, regular increase. You know, if you can't do 10,000 steps this week, start aiming for 5, you know, and get that as a good average. Yeah. And that's fine. Then you've got, and I know what will happen because I've got so many of the girls now that are hitting their 10,000 steps every day. They're posting it on Harley Street at Home, the Facebook page that I've got.
And they're doing really well.
It's amazing.
They are doing really well.
Like over 1,000 women doing this now. But there is going to come a bit where they've been doing their 10,000 steps for a good couple of months, and then they need it to start to step up a bit. And then I kind of start saying, right, well, you can go harder, faster, longer, or more often. But what a real question I'd like to ask you is, so if you're doing your walking nicely, and you know that the next step might be to go a little bit faster, how do you recommend that you start the kind of walk jog?
I think there's something that comes before that.
Is it something that you do?
I would start something before that. I think you get your 10,000 steps and you're comfortable doing that. And within reason, as soon as you're comfortable, it's time to move on. Okay. So, and I think the other thing that I would say is start while you're doing your walking. If you can sing while you're walking, you're going too slowly. Okay. So you start walking so that when you're walking, you can talk, but you're noticing it's a little staccato because you're trying to push yourself up a little bit. So there's 3 things that you can do before we start the jog bit. Increase your distance, increase your speed, or increase the terrain difficulty. So I live in Kent in Sevenoaks, And we have hills everywhere. There is nowhere. I often say to my runners, you know, it's all flat today. You're lying. Yeah, I'm lying. You're lying. So you can start to look at one of those things. And some people will prefer to try and go a bit longer because they've got more time. A lot of people are very time poor. So in fact, they can become more efficient by saying, okay, I'm actually just going to go a bit faster. I'm going to hit my 10,000 a little bit quicker. But the increase in your heart rate, the increase in your cadence will all be beneficial. And some people might say, okay, so I'm going to start heading for the hills. Now, when I say head for the hills, it may be that you live in the flattest pace around you. So you find one hill and you think, right, today I'm going to do that hill once.
Yeah.
Next week, I'm going to do it twice. The week after that, I'm going to do it 3 times. But what I think is important, that you don't do all of those 3 things, and you don't step up your difficulty level more than every 3 weeks. So we need a stabilizing. You're a runner. I know you from what you've said that you started with the Couch to 5K.
Yeah.
In theory, 21 years ago, I wrote the first Couch to 5K. I've been coaching women to run for 21 years. And I start with 30 seconds and then we increase from there. But what's really important is that you have a couple of weeks of thinking, I can do this. If you're constantly changing the targets, we never get to that bit where we think this feels good. Yeah. And in order to carry on doing something, at some point it needs to feel good. Otherwise we start dreading it.
Music to my ears, because I have to say, now I do my running and my walk. I've got my little dogs and I take my dogs out, but I run on my own. And my running now is actually part of getting my head together for the day. And it's such a pleasurable thing. Years ago, I had I've had a lot of ambitions, but one of my ambitions was to run a marathon. Yeah. And 3 of us trained together. And we did the Paris Marathon. Now, I will say, I will never, ever do one again. I hated every second of it. But what you're right with as well, we had a lousy winter that year. All the training was through the winter and it was miserable. And I never felt in the training for that I ever got used to anything. Everything was painful and hard, and the next week it had to be another 3 miles or whatever, and I just felt like I was playing catch up, and it almost turned me off.
Yeah, it turns a lot of people off. So what we're looking to do here is bring in a form of exercise that, and you won't take this the wrong way, but I think people might, you're going to do this for the rest of your life. You saw my 94-year-old lady that I stopped and interviewed.
I just want
Still
her.
Doing it.
I want her. I love her.
So we can't do something that we hate, because the best exercise is the one that you love. And so you've got to make it pleasurable. So there are going to be points where, you know, you're ready to push it a little bit further. So my answer to your question about half an hour ago was, we run when we're fit. We don't run to get fit.
Nice. I'm writing that down. Yeah. In fact, I've pinched it. Is that all right?
Yeah. We run when we're fit. So once you've got to the stage where you're comfortably walking 10K a day, you can comfortably add in 2 or 3 times in your week something where that 10K isn't a lovely walk with a girlfriend, which is equally important. It's a walk where you're coming back sweating and you've worked hard. Then you can start to think, okay, so how can I push myself a little bit further? And the answer to your question is 30 seconds jogging, 60 seconds walking. 30 jogging, 60 seconds walking. And I have oodles and oodles of run walk training plans, which I'm more than happy to share to you. And I'm not going to bore the pants off people now, because everybody wants things in a different way, and everybody has a different starting point.
I really like that premise, though. That sounds utterly doable.
Yeah.
And it's very much really the same process that we're going through on the dietary side. So, you know, you achieve your deficit, you start achieving, you get to your weight loss regime. And, you know, I'm waiting for people to start telling me, this is fine, I can do this,
absolutely.
then we might go a little bit tougher at it. Absolutely.
Because you're talking about this as part of your weight loss management or your weight management. But if you look at it, so then you get Naomi, and Naomi's coming from a cardiac point of view. That heart is a muscle. That's got to get used to it too. Your bones, we want your bone density starts to go from around 35 onwards. This is why we need to put in this pounding effect so that we can start to maintain or even reverse the bone sort of thinning. But that doesn't happen overnight. So not only are we trying to get our heart fit, everything else has got to adapt. So there's an adaptation process. If you look at professional athletes, they have phases of training. They're not always training hard. There is a time for cake.
Yeah.
there is a time.
Always time for
cake. Yeah. So it's important that you don't go at it without any kind of thought about your joints getting used to it. Our poor feet. A lot of people, when they start this 10,000 steps, they haven't done this for years, and their feet and their knees and their hips will all go, really? And the answer is yes, really. But we've got to train all of that to work too.
So thinking on that one, there is no point trying to go out and do 10,000 steps in a pair of kitten heels, beautiful as they look.
No, they need to be kept for the bedroom.
Yeah. How does that now? I remember when I went and bought my first pair of running shoes, and I, had to stand on the treadmill and get my gait measured and all of that baloney, which was important, and I understood it. I really do get it. If somebody is just embarking now on 10,000 steps, what's the best way for them to judge footwear that is going to be appropriate for them?
Okay. If you're going to spend any money on getting yourself fit, and you're talking about the kit, somebody did ask this on your Facebook page, and I said I would definitely cover it.
Yeah.
The place to spend that money in priority is your feet and your boobs. Okay, so these babies need to be strapped in, because they will go in concentric circles, and they shouldn't when you're walking or running. Okay, they need to be strapped in. And your feet need to be supported, because people, and you'll know from marathon running, that your foot will tip one way potentially, or it'll tip another way, or you'll be neutral. Now, unfortunately, I'm just going to stand up here. If that tracks in, that will start to affect your knees and your hips. And if you haven't got somebody looking at you, then, potentially you might give up before you've even started. So if you're going to spend money, you start with your feet and your boobs. And then, just for you women out there, then the next thing to look at is your tights, your running tights, or your bottoms, because some of them go up into bits that they shouldn't do. And also when you squat, you can see if you've had a Brazilian or not. So you need to go with somebody who's going to be really honest with you. Yes, I can see your noo-noo. Okay, so that's the other place to spend. But you don't, it's just about taking a pair of tights and stretching them, seeing if you can see, who you're shopping with afterwards. And so some of the supermarkets have got some really good kit. You don't have to spend a lot of money, but that's what to look for. But if you are only ever going to walk, and that's fantastic, you're not intending to run, you can get away with not spending a lot on your footwear. And now this may be contentious. If you think that at some point you are going to run, wear what you've got, and when you can afford it, get yourself to a reputable running shop, and don't be put off by the word running. Get onto their treadmill. Remember to put a sports bra on first, because if you haven't, they'll say, off you go, and then these babies are flying up and down. So put your sports bra on, because you might shock the poor, young guy who's like 18 and he's got this happening. And they will tell you what kind of shoe will support your foot. And if you are looking at running, it is an investment that is worth doing. But you don't have to start off with it. You can start off with a training shoe, as it were, that you might have had from anywhere.
And do you know what I found after that? Because once I'd had that done, I wrote it down. And then after that, I was able to go online and buy the right shoes that fitted that. So, when you buy your first pair in a shop, they do tend to be dearer, and you can get better deals online.
Yeah, you can.
But it's not a better deal if it's the wrong shoe, is it?
what you might not know, so for instance, one of the well-known makes is Asics. Okay,
Yeah.
so there's the Asics 3210 or something like that. So you find a shoe that feels like you're walking on clouds, and it's amazing. Okay, and then you keep looking for that on that well-known website where you can get stuff sent to you. But what Asics will do is they'll bring up the updated version. Okay, so at some point, it normally takes about 5 years to get rid of all of the old ones. And if you're not careful, what you then get next may feel very different. So it is just worth making sure you're trying to keep abreast, even if you're one shoe behind, as a shoe evolves. Because probably, you know, when I first started running, they wanted to give us this much padding under our feet. And now it's all about running barefoot. Now, if the only shoe we could buy now is a barefoot running shoe, that would feel really weird to you. So if you are going to run, you kind of want to keep up a little bit with the changes in footwear.
Sure.
But any good running shop should give you that advice quite happily.
Do you know what's, I mean, brilliant advice. You must have done a degree in running footwear. But what I also, you know, want to kind of stress for folk watching is, you know, with the right footwear, I have arthritis in my big toe joints, I get knee problems, and I can still run almost every day because I've got the right footwear. And I vary it up. I'll sometimes go on soft ground. I love kind of trail running. That's my favorite. But amazingly, I mean, there are days where, you know, running in the trails and on the soft ground is quite hard work. And occasionally then I switch and I do a run on the lanes on the road, and it feels so easy after doing all the trails. But I think, you know, footwear is so important.
It is.
What I'm noticing, I live in Bedfordshire and it's fairly rural where we are, and there are lots of village running clubs. And I'm noticing, because we have a couple of park runs in Bedford, which for people that don't know, park runs are a lovely kind of community event, 5K, usually, oddly enough, in a park, usually relatively flat, and it's a run, walk or jog. And it's every level you can imagine, isn't it? You've got folk there pushing babies in prams. You've got all age groups, all shapes, all sizes, totally non-threatening.
And all abilities.
But of course, park run's not on at the moment. So I'm looking at a lot of the running clubs that are going out. And what's lovely to see is they are getting like park runs. They are all shapes and sizes, all ages, all abilities, which I don't think they were so much like that a few years ago.
So I started my running group in Sevenoaks 21 years ago for very personal reasons. My brother was killed and I did a marathon in his memory. It's another story. Wow. And over 21 years, I have trained thousands and thousands of women. And we are women only. We have a men's group called Oaks Blokes, but we are women only. And the idea is that any woman of any age and size can, if she wants to, run in a way that's comfortable. And today, because of lockdown, we've just been starting running again in our groups, probably for about 4 weeks. And I took them into beautiful Knoll Park here in Sevenoaks. It's, you know, mountainous. And we got to the bottom of the hill and everybody made it to the top of the hill. And I looked back and I said, girls, when we were on our own, we would have stopped. Why did you carry on today? Because you're in a group. Having a running or a walking buddy is a huge motivator, because let's say you say to me, Nigel, okay, I'm going to go run with you next Thursday, Sam, and you wake up on Thursday and you think, oh, I don't like it. And I text you and I'll say, I'll see you. And you think, oh, I better go because I've told somebody I'm going to go. So it is the commitment to a friend or perhaps a club that is so vital. So if people can find, so the reason I said this, that why I suppose I feel very qualified to say this. When I first started my running group in Kent, if you were a runner, you were very tall with very short hair and very short shorts. Yeah. That's what you looked like. You didn't look like a normal person. Recreational running was not a thing. There wasn't Park Run, there wasn't the Race for Life or cancer research runs. And therefore, athletics clubs were appealing to people who had always run. If you wanted to learn to run, there's no way you'd join an athletics club
Sure.
And if you like, I saw a gap in that market, and I've been very lucky and grateful to be successful. And now those clubs, that recreational running thing, is all over the UK. There's a thing called Run Together, which Run England have. So if you're looking for a group, you know, that you can find the groups that are near you, and look for somebody who seems, well, not very tall, with very short shorts and very short hair.
Because quite often they're a bit dull as well sometimes.
And if somebody says to you, right, this is a beginner's group, we're just going to do a mile tonight, walk the other way.
Yeah.
Ow.
Now, the other thing you helped with this morning, I mean, you're such a supportive element of the Facebook group, and thank you for the comments and the support that you offer some of the girls on there. Now, the big area that I always find so exciting, so let's say we are talking about the weight issue, and somebody is managing their 500 calorie a day deficit. They've started on their steps, and then I bring in this horrible expression that they worry about, which is a little bit of resistance exercise. And I want you, because, you know, this is your area, the way I always put it, and please, you know, pick me up if I wrong. As those estrogen levels reduce and your muscle mass also reduces, it has to reduce, because it just picks up that the loss of estrogen is a step forward in the aging process. So you're going to lose that muscle tissue, but you can replace it. And that really is turning back time.
Yeah.
Because if you can rebuild that muscle tissue, you can give your metabolism that kick up the backside. Ultimately, the more muscle tissue you develop, the faster your metabolism works, the more calories you need. If we've cut 500 calories a day off, the only thing that can happen is you start to lose weight.
Absolutely, yeah. Or you lose weight.
Yes,
because you start potentially, because that tape measure, which we said never lies.
Oh, I am so passionate. Don't just use the scales. Measure. Get a blouse and a pair of jeans you can only wear on thin days, and use those, you know. But I think there is a massive fear then about weight resistance. Yeah. And you know, I love my Pilates, and I've often advocated that. Absolutely. I saw some of the videos that you posted for me this morning that were brilliant. Why didn't I think of that before? And we'd love to get some more of those.
Love to do that, yeah.
Let's talk about them. So say somebody isn't Pilates crazy or yoga crazy, but likes the idea, they've bought into the fact they need to do something. Yeah. What sort of things at home are going to be a good thing for big muscle groups, and how would you start? I'm going to shut up because this is I've got to shut up.
It's great. I say, when people ask me about their exercise as a whole, I say that there are 7 S's that they need to get. They need to get sweaty at some point. Okay, they need to do something that brings in the suppleness, which Pilates and yoga need to do. It needs to be sociable at some point. So you need something where it's sociable. Okay. Yeah. You need something that is slow. So that's often Pilates and yoga, not always. And often it needs to be short. Okay. We have this idea that any exercise time needs to be an hour. It doesn't. We don't need that stress of doing exercise for an hour. We don't need that anymore. And it needs to involve strength. So in your week, you might do 10 minutes yoga on your own in the morning. You might do 10 minutes Pilates. So you might use a coach or an instructor for something and do the rest on your own, or switch it around. But that sort of gives you an overall balance. But the strength, the short and the sweaty often comes from a resistance type exercise. So yes, you mentioned, and you're quite right, as you say, your muscle starts to go down from around the age of 30, men and women, about 10% per decade. Yeah. Okay. And interestingly, if you start a resistance series of exercises, your bone density starts to improve almost immediately. Okay. And you can have an effect on your muscles within 4 to 6 weeks. And you can start to build a habit of making that a habit within 4 to 6 weeks. So the positive effects are really quick. And the really nice thing about being a beginner is that those positive effects become even quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you've been doing this for ages, you have to work really hard to have a big difference. But if you're new to it, wow, it's just incredible.
It's like being plugged into the mains, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. So Zoom for me has been, I've been teaching my resistance classes in my little studio, which only takes 10 people, obviously lockdown. And I thought I'm quite comfortable on camera. I've done a lot of stuff on camera. And I thought, right, I'm going to go to Zoom and I'm going to look at where are the places that people really want to work. It's their abs, their arms and their arse. They are the 3 places that we want to be toned, but we need to be strong. That will have an effect on building more muscle. And I put together a program of which, as you saw, I gave you some samples. But women don't need a strength program that's right for a 35-year-old man. Yeah. We need something different. It needs to be doable that you think, I hate you right now, but actually I feel quite good afterwards. It needs to be over and done with quite quickly, otherwise you just won't do it. And it needs to be enough just to take you into that level where you're noticing it without thinking this is just so hard, I can't do it. So, and probably once or twice a week. But you can incorporate those sorts of exercises into your walk. I don't know if you've seen any of my Instagram posts. I often do a run. You can do a walk, which we call it an Oregon Trail run. So I actually run a shorter distance, but I find a log and I do push-ups, or I find a log and I do press-ups, or I'll do mountain climbers. And I use the great outdoors to give me some resistance, particularly because often a log is wobbly. It's not like a weight. And life isn't stable, is it? If we pick up the shopping and take it from the boot of the car, we have to lift, rotate, twist and reach. So all of this has to be functional. We don't go round our life doing this unless you're putting your luggage in the overhead locker on EasyJet. Now, if you can't put your luggage in the overhead locker, then you ain't going nowhere.
Because no one else is going to do it.
So it's about making the strength the right thing for you. Everybody sits down on a toilet every day, and to sit, you need to squat. We need to be able to squat. It's part of day-to-day life.
Well, again, this thing about, being that 80, 90-year-old woman that everybody looks at and thinks, I want to be like her. I was looking at that gorgeous lady you met in the park.
Amazing.
And I thought, do you know the other thing with her is her kids are not going to get a call saying that she's been found in a kitchen 3 days after she fell over, because she
can get up.
If she falls, exactly, she's got the strength to get herself up off the floor. And that ultimately is a lifesaver. More elderly women die of the complications of a fall, a fracture, and then an infection.
That's right.
It's such an important
so in my Facebook group this month, I've run a 30-day press-up challenge. We all seem to want to be able to look like the man on the cover of Men's Health, and we're never able to do that. But you see, your bone density, we get it from walking. You get that impact from walking. But what about this? This is what we've got to push ourselves up from the floor. So I've run this press-up challenge where we started our press-ups up against the wall.
Yeah.
Nobody needs to go straight into doing a press-up that they can't do. But if we don't put our weight through our hands, other than when you've had one too many Prosecco's on holiday on the beach, then your wrists aren't going, then you're going to lose their strength as well. So this is all about staying healthy for life, not to try and tick some kind of goal that somebody else says you've got to do. It's about being healthy. And the other thing I like to try and do is remind people that our brains need exercising too. So I'm saying lunge to the left and lift I've just done it the wrong way. Lunge to the right and lift your left arm, because cognitive function also declines. And we know, and I know we've discussed it, that in fact learning a language or dancing are 2 really good ways, because your brain has to think left, right, left, right. So making people think slightly about when they're working out as well, only enough that they have to think right, left, is also really stimulating for your brain. You go home younger.
And sleep so well.
Absolutely.
As a result. And in terms of, again, when I'm thinking about letting women know that the work you've done, you can feel it's working. So I always say the next day, you want to know you did it. Yeah. You need to be able to wipe your own bottom. Yeah. If you can't even move your arm, you've overdone it. You've actually hurt yourself there. Yeah. But that feeling of tenderness, just that you've done it, is actually, that's your muscle. Glorious. Then it needs to repair. That's what we're waiting for. Yeah. Would you?
So it's called delayed onset muscle stiffness or soreness, DOMS, people call it. If you're very, very fit, you nearly always get that 2 days later. When you're starting out on your fitness journey, you may notice it that night. I often get the red phone, I call it. The red phone goes, "What have you done? Do you offer a catheterization service? I can't sit down on the toilet." So you might notice it that evening or perhaps the next day. And what happens when we're doing any exercises, the little muscle fibers tear and then they repair. So it's tear, repair, tear, repair, tear, repair. And every time they repair, they get a little bit stronger. You get more able to do it. So the point at which you become stiff takes longer to get to. So you'll have to push a little bit harder to get that same stiffness. Mm-hmm. So an evolving instructor or coach will take you to a stage where you either do more reps or perhaps lift a slightly heavier weight. And when we're talking weights, Nigel, a can of chickpeas or black beans from your cupboard may well be enough for people when they first. You don't have to have loads of equipment. Your body is a weight. We can lift our own bodies.
Certainly. There was I did an interview with one of our members yesterday, Joe Briley. If anybody gets a chance to have a look at it, it's on the Facebook group. Gosh, I mean, it was a heartbreaker, but it was so inspiring as well. And she was saying, she'd started doing her bicep curls and she was using 2 jars of ragu and off she was going.
2 bottles of champagne. Love it.
Yeah. Maybe a couple of cork wedges.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I've got, you probably know, often women have problems with their shoulders, partly due to the estrogen. And there's a really good rotator cuff exercise that you do where your arms go out like that. But there's one I call the wine bottle exercise. So you've got a weight and you're literally just doing this. And it's like you're holding the neck of a wine bottle and going like that. But, then people understand what you're trying to get them to do. This is about real life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Real life.
So thinking about real life then. So women are watching this all over the country, all over the world, and beginning to think, I like her. She actually is speaking my language, but they're never going to get to Sevenoaks. So how are they going to get a bit of Sam input? What is going on now with your business, with how you're working with people? Because I know I want to be able to send some of my girls over to you and say, go and see what Sam's doing. So how would they do that?
I have an Instagram page like you where I have met so many inspirational women, but I don't find myself coaching very much on there because it isn't really quite right for the kind of topics that we're talking about. I won't talk about the sorts of stuff that we talk about on there. So I have a public Facebook page called Midlife Makeover, but then I have a secret Facebook group. And if you find the public Facebook page, the first thing that it says is join the group. Yeah. And that's when we can talk about your sore noo-noo. That's when we can talk about anything and everything. And that's where I tell people, I will do fitness sessions or samples of classes. I often put little videos on there as well. And also you can find the courses and things that I do. I have an online program called Move Over Menopause because I'm passionate about moving over menopause. But I think one of the reasons, here we go, here's my secret crush, Nigel.
Go on.
When I first saw you, I liked the way you talk. We are all exposed to so many people, and you're only going to get the best out of somebody you think, yeah, I like you. You're saying exactly the right stuff, but there isn't something that connects. And I won't connect with everybody. Not everybody's going to like the way. Yeah. So, the best thing to do is to see, I've got YouTube videos and stuff. I'm not an online queen by any means, but I've been doing it for such a long time. And if you like what you see that's free, then you might like to perhaps do one of my courses or online courses, or I'm live on Zoom 3 times a week anyway. So, you know, you can just join a class. But I have committed, and I've said I will do for you in your Facebook group a sample of the abs, arms and arse, but a proper, I'll give you a 30-minute workout so people can do that.
That would be wonderful. Thank you. And I know how popular that would be. And again, everything about our group is we are absolutely committed to making sure that any of the information that the women get there is safe, is trustworthy, is accurate. And, you know, you are the epitome of all of that. And this is again what I'm loving about Instagram. I've only been on Instagram since lockdown, and I really never dreamed it would be this what it is. I actually thought it was going to be really transient, really a little bit shallow, and it's not. The people who come and listen to us talking are fantastic and loyal, and the people that I've got to chat with, I've learned so much.
Me too.
And every chat I do restores that kind of fire in the belly of why I'm so glad that you know I do what I do, because we've got a brilliant network of people around us. And exactly as you say, you know, no, each of us is not perfect for everybody, but shop around, look at as many posts and feeds and lives as you can, and just exactly like you say, wait until you resonate with somebody.
What resonates, that's right,
and that's your person.
There's a couple of things I said that I would definitely mention for you. Somebody asked how long would their running shoes last, or their shoes. If they are running shoes, between 300 to 500 miles. So if we're telling people to do 10,000 steps a day, that roughly works out at around 6 miles a day. If you buy running shoes, please only use them for running or your walks. Don't use them for playing tennis or for walking the dog, really, because they are an investment in the gel and the stitching and everything. And you don't want to just sort of kind of almost use up that mileage, as it were. And then when you feel that they're like running in naan bread, you know, there's nothing left, keep those and walk the dog in those, or do the garden in those. The other thing is never, never, never put your shoes in the washing machine. My darling husband took us for a walk the other day. Some of you may have seen on my Facebook, and we went through this bog at the end. And my poor stepdaughter had brand new shoes that she had for her birthday. She was furious. We had to stop a man who was watering his beans and say, "Can we clean our shoes?" So just literally wash them in the sink. Never put them in the washing machine because they warp, and that can have an effect on your hips and everything. So that was one question. And the other thing I said that I would go through was the fact of talking about movement snacks. So how do you get that 10,000 in? You can't, for some reason, for some people, getting out for an hour in one big move, it just isn't going to work. So they have to take the movement snacks, and that's fine, which is why often 30 minutes is all that's doable, really.
Quick question from me. Just jumped to mind. Someone's asked about plantar fasciitis as well.
Yes.
Horrible. You know the socks?
Yes.
So you can get them with pressure points and goodness knows what else. Do you have to buy posh socks?
I get mine in Primark.
Lovely. Thanks.
I have done 4 London marathons, and I did the first 2 with those, I think they're called Thorlos, which is a sock in a sock, and your foot's supposed to move. Your shoe should be half to a full size bigger for running than your normal shoe. So you need a little bit of movement of your foot inside your shoe. But to be honest, having found a Primark sock, it's really nice. It gets black because of the kind of running that we do. It's filthy. They go in the bin. Maybe that's not very environmentally friendly, but I put another pair on and my toenail goes through the end. No, you do not have to spend £9.99 or upwards on a pair of runners. No.
Shocking. Yeah. No. Okay. No. Brilliant. The plantar fasciitis, is that a whole?
Plantar fasciitis comes on often if you've been walking in flip-flops, not fit-flops. Okay, so something really flat, or marching around in Wellington boots, something where there's a real flat foot.
Yeah.
And it's an inflammation of the plantar fascia, which goes right from the back of your heel right under your foot. And in us old crunchy people, I'm 56, takes about 6 weeks to heal. It's very, very painful when you get up first thing in the morning and try and walk. You get this acute pain under your foot, tends to go off during the day. The advice is to go with a shoe that supports the arch of your foot, so don't walk around barefoot. Fit flops, I'm being very careful how I say that, because they've got an arch support. Sometimes Birkenstocks, certainly never wellies, barefoot or normal flip flops. Anything, OOFOS, OOFOS. They're another flip flop type thing that have got the plantar support. But then the other thing, 2 or 3 times a day, fill a water bottle with water, keep it in the freezer, something that isn't going to crack if you freeze it, and roll your foot over the water bottle. So if you're sitting at your desk typing, you could have a plastic water bottle or even a glass one under your foot, and you roll. I'm rolling. You can't see, can you?
Yeah.
I'm rolling.
I'm feeling it, Sam. I'm feeling it.
I'm rolling my foot over the ice cold water for 8 to 10 minutes. Do that 2 or 3 times a day, and that works quite well. I'm not saying it's going to cure it. It's time. No. And unfortunately, because your tendons take a while to heal now, it takes a while.
I've tried the tennis ball that Victoria's mentioned as well, and I find that can be quite helpful.
Yeah, it does.
This, oh gosh, I could sit and chat all day like this. This is brilliant. Absolutely. We're going to do some more, I hope.
That'd be lovely.
To do some more. What I'm going to do is I will post this up on my Facebook group, and I'll make sure you can get it if you want to post it up on your group. Thanks. As well. Let's show it. But, you know, I knew this would be good. It's been 100 times better than I thought it could have been. You've been perfect. Thank you. And I'm really, I really hope that, you know, what we are aiming to do has rubbed off a little bit today. One last reminder, if somebody wants to come and have a little taste of Sam, remind me of that Facebook group and the page.
Midlife Makeover.
Midlife Makeover. Lovely.
Midlife
okay,
Makeover.
I'm going to give it a good look. But I mean, I think what we'll have to do is put some questions out to the guys on the groups and say, look, Sam's coming back. What do you want to know about? I reckon we could do a session on sports bras to get us going.
Definitely.
And also for the blokes, do you know, the moves they're there. They are. If
and you get a bit of chaff. Get a bit of chaff.
They do. I remember when I used to train for my marathon, and you used to put the Vaseline on your nipples.
Yeah.
And one time I was on the loo in the winter doing my running tights, you know, under my shorts, and bent down to pull my tights up, my black running tights, and that's how bad the moves were. I had 2 little nipple implants on my tights and Vaseline, but I mean they will literally bleed if you don't get them. And actually,
people who are a little bit bigger often get what do they call it? Chub rub. The insides of your legs, and it's sore, and in fact under your arms here too.
And your bottom. Your bottom can get really sore.
We do get sore bits. We don't want sore bits because they'll put you off what you're trying to do. So definitely.
Lube up, girls. Lube up.
Inside and out.
Lube up and think of England. On that note, we'll call it an afternoon, but what a superstar, Sam. I loved it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
See you again really soon, I hope.
And bye, everybody. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Can we talk about grey roots?